is only the November international break, but if you look at the Premier League table right now, there is very little in terms of points to separate some of those teams around the relegation battle. Today, we're going to focus on those bottom six, and feel free to share your thoughts if you support one of them down in the comments. Right now, I mean, Wolves do look the favourites to go down, and maybe the momentum is with Forest and West Ham to stay up. But as we know, there's lots of twists and turns to come. Can Leeds United pull away? Will they change their manager? Are Fulham being dragged into it as well? We're going to talk about all of that and more. Be sure to share your thoughts though. Make sure you've dropped a like on the video. It takes 2 seconds. Be sure to subscribe as well. And let's talk about it. And joining me once again to help unpick this relegation sandwich is Michael Bowers, the Sunderland YouTuber. Make sure to check out his channel if you haven't already. Michael, you're a bit like me. You're looking at this relegation battle from the outside because Sunderland are way clear of it at the moment. Just a quick word on them. I don't suppose you think Sunderland are going to be in much danger this season, do you?
It's Sunderland. You never know what could happen. But having said that, I think we hopefully will have enough to be clear of this. But I love the fact you've got us like in a category of above the relegation battle, and now the relegation battle doesn't include us. So we'll wait and see. But I think it's a good bet that I'd like to hope we're going to be above the teams we're going to mention in this video.
Yeah, so at the moment, we've got the bottom 6 up here. This is the bottom 6 in the Premier League table. Yes, it's still possible. Everton could be drawn into it, Brentford and maybe Sunderland. But for the sake of being realistic at the moment, we're just going to look at this bottom 6. Michael, let's start with Wolves. Of course, the big news has been that Rob Edwards has jumped ship from Middlesbrough to go to bottom of the table, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, I can see the argument from both sides. Wolves are a big club and they are currently a Premier League club, but you know, you can also flip the argument and say Wolves might go down and Middlesbrough might go up, and Middlesbrough did give him a chance to redeem himself after what he'd done at Luton. How much of a chance do you give Wolves? I mean, they've still got good players in there like Strand Larsen who can chip in with the goals, but I don't know. I mean, I just think there's so much catching up to do. They're going to have to perform like a mid-table team and not have any more bad runs if they're going to get to 38, 39 points and survive.
To get to that points tally you've mentioned, say if it was 38 points, they'd have to get 36 points in 27 games, which, okay, it's like 1.1, 1.2 points per game. The quick maths on that, I don't know. But so it's not impossible, but I just look at Wolves and I'm thinking it's a lot. I mean, they've lost. I mean, look, losing away at Sunderland, for example, this season's not been a disgrace for any team, really. It's not just Wolves who've lost at the stadium, like West Ham and Brentford have as well. Arsenal didn't win there. So I would look at Wolves and say that, okay, take Sunderland away out of it. You've lost at home to Leeds and Burnley, and you've lost away at Fulham. Like they're the ones that are like, you need to be picking results, especially Leeds and Burnley at home. And for balance, despite being a Sunderland fan, if we beat Wolves at Molyneux, I'd be saying the same thing. Wolves need to be getting something out of that game. So I think, look, can Wolves do it? Mathematically, of course they can do it, but effectively they're 9 points adrift because of the goal difference. So Rob Edwards is a weird one because I stuck up for Middlesbrough appointing him because I actually thought at championship level, people focused just on the last 6 months at Luton and forgot everything that happened prior to that. I think but it's a big gamble, I think, going to Wolves. So how much? Look, Wolves mathematically, of course, have every chance, but I think the first thing they need to do is to stop conceding so many goals and start being hard to beat and actually start getting a couple of clean sheets, grind out a couple of 1-0s, even get a few 0-0s and get the points tally up. My big gripe with Wolves, though, in 27 games, they would probably need to win at least 11 of them, I think, 10 or 11 of them to have a chance. And then you're asking to draw a fair few games as well. So I'm not sure how much. I don't know. It's a lot to ask. They could do it, but I'd be very surprised if Wolves stayed up at this point.
I think 10 wins and 5 draws, that's 37. Maybe that's enough. But it also depends on how high the tide is. If Nottingham Forest and West Ham really start to rise, then Wolves need to try and keep up with them. I do think 38 is probably going to be enough, but that'll be close, I think. I get it, once again, with Edwards going, because he also has the connections back to Wolves, having played there for 4 years. But as you say, it's a big gamble. If this goes wrong for him and Wolves, then it's a right mess, of course. Let's move on to Nottingham Forest, who are still 19th at the minute, but it feels like things are starting to move in the right direction. Of course, that is because they got rid of Ange Postecoglou and they've brought in a relegation dogfight specialist in Sean Dyche, and they've already looked a lot better. A couple of results in the Europa League, but a lot better performances in the Premier League. I will say they've got difficult games up until Christmas, so they might stay below a point per game for now. But you sense they're going to be able to get out of this, do you, Michael?
Yes. I think the thing that stops me going full on this is depending on how far they get in Europe, because obviously the squad depth and the fixture pile-ups that can happen. And of course, if you're in the Europa League, you're going to want to give it a good go. Why wouldn't you? But I still think Dyche will have enough to get these guys out of it. I think that if you're looking at the great lad Conor McGilligan, who's said this loads of times, and he's right, look at the mid-bracket Premier League teams and the quality that they've got. So you're looking at Ndoye, you're looking at Hudson-Odoi, you're looking at Elliot Anderson, Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood. That's just off the top of my head. You are looking at so many great components there for Forest. Obviously, a lot of it depends on injuries and form, but I'm at the point when I'm looking at Forest and I'm thinking I'd be very surprised if Forest got relegated at the end of the season, personally.
Yeah, I would. I mean, look, they've still got the core of that team that finished 7th last season. And,
Exactly.
okay, they're probably not going to finish 7th this time round, but they should be above 18th at least. So
You never know, by the way, it's 9 points.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. But as you say, good point about the Europa League. Could that fixture congestion still plague them through the season? It then comes down to what they prioritise. And if they have to make the choice, surely you prioritise the Premier League. Let's move on to West Ham United, who are up to 18th. Only 2 goal difference keeping them in there for now. They just beat 17th placed Burnley. And of course, similar to Nottingham Forest, they've changed the manager and they look a lot better. In fact, they've got Nottingham Forest's former manager, Nuno. Where do you see West Ham, Michael? I do think they're looking all right, based on recent performances and results and the fact they've closed the gap. I'm not as confident with them as I am with Forest. I just think Forest have got a stronger squad. But where do you see West Ham?
I see West Ham as, even before they beat Newcastle and Burnley, I always felt like with West Ham, they would have another gear to go up, because I'm thinking, I mean, Potts has come into the midfield, hasn't he? And he's really started to make them tick and look much, much better. Fatius Fernandez had a great game against Burnley. Then Callum, and if they keep him fit, it's Callum Wilson up front. I think he is able to score goals at this level, but we know what his fitness record's like. But I just think with West Ham, I think even if West Ham have not had a great start, they've still managed to beat Burnley. And although Burnley scored at the end, it was looking quite comfortable, really. So I think it comes back to it, at least on the scoreline terms anyway, not necessarily the performance. But I do feel like West Ham will still do enough. And I just felt like Nuno, I think, will stabilise things and will get them a more sure footing to be able to do it. The big thing West Ham have to do is to win home games, because at the London Stadium, it's got to the point of real toxicity in recent times, and back-to-back home wins always, of course, helps. And obviously, they won 3-0 away at Forest. I think the big thing for West Ham is obviously they lost away at Leeds. They obviously beat Burnley. They've beaten Forest. I think when they're playing Wolves, that's a game home and away. They need to be getting results again. So I think if they can get a good amount of home wins together, then I think West Ham stay up anyway. I think West Ham will be all right. It'll be touch and go, but I think their quality compared to the couple of teams above them, I think that will see them over the line, especially with having Nuno as manager personally.
Yeah, I really like the firepower West Ham have, and I think Nuno's playing to those strengths. And as you say, it's really crucial to try and make the London Stadium a fortress and to at least get something in the 6 pointers. I think the thing that makes me a bit uncertain is just the behind the scenes, off the pitch.
Yeah, it's still not great, is it?
Yeah, I feel like Nuno's trying to hold things up while they're crashing down on him, whereas at Forest, it feels a bit more of a stable picture. I know not everyone is a fan of Marinakis, but the Forest fans are generally. So I feel like they're going to be able to pull away. West Ham, maybe not. It does feel like the narrative at the minute is that West Ham and Forest are going to start to pull away, and that could mean trouble for our 2 promoted teams that are just above the bottom 3. Let's start with Burnley, Michael. Burnley have had a very difficult start, and they've picked up points in a lot of the games where they needed to. But I'm still thinking, is there going to be enough points on the board at the end of the season to see them staying up? They've definitely got a chance. They've just got to stay within touching distance. But you sense they're going to get swallowed up by Forest and West Ham here, don't you? Yeah,
that's the problem, because I think with Leeds and Burnley, I mean, Burnley in particular, to be fair to them, the last international break we did see, and it is a valid argument, they've had a very, very tough start. They had to play Man City away, Man United away, Liverpool at home, Tottenham away. They had to play Villa away as well in that run-in. What helped them is they beat Leeds and Wolves back-to-back, which was massive for them, especially the way they won away at Wolves. But I do get the impression with West Ham, they needed to get something out of it for me if they were really wanting to. And don't get me wrong, this one result doesn't define if Wolves go down or not. Burnley go down or not. But I don't know. I still have a feeling they won't have enough. And I know, and this is going to sound weird considering Sunderland have scored the same amount of goals as Burnley have. but I'm more convinced with Sunderland's firepower than I am with Burnley's. Or at the very least to get more than enough points to get something. Obviously, Sunderland have conceded a lot less than Burnley, but the caveat again is that Burnley have had some really difficult fixtures. No game's easy in the Premier League, but contrary to what the narrative was about Sunderland at the start of the season, no games are easy. But Burnley have had an especially tough run. But Parker gives them a better chance than Company did, I would say, because of the way he has been set up. But I still have my doubts whether Burnley will have enough, unfortunately, for them.
I think they're probably getting as much out of their players as they can. I just think it comes down to squad quality, doesn't it? And they've got a couple of players that maybe can step up to the Premier League in a different team.
They've not disgraced themselves, at least.
No, they collectively, it just looks like a very, very strong Championship team, and I'm not quite sure if that's going to cut it. But I feel, though, if Burnley do go down, they'll be in a very good place to come straight back up. But they want to break that cycle, ideally.
Absolutely. If they're in touching distance in January, there's a chance.
Yeah, and they're above the bottom three for now. So are Leeds, but a lot of the talk at the minute, Michael, is that a lot of the Leeds fans want Farke to go. And as things stand, he's still there. Maybe he's going to get a few games to save himself. If you just look at the table, they are on a point per game, but the fixtures are going to get harder between now and Christmas. They've played 8 of the bottom 10 already, and of course they are one of the bottom 10. So there's only one team in the bottom half they haven't played yet, which I think is Brentford. It's really tricky to see Leeds staying close to a point per game when you look at their run of games to Christmas. I think Ellen Road is maybe something that could keep them up, but away from home, they need to do more. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the problem I've had with Leeds is with Farke specifically. And Farke strikes me as one, and again, cliche, but very, very competent and capable Championship head coach. But when it comes to the Premier League, and it's a weird one because when he was at Norwich, he didn't have the resources to really properly have a go, whereas with Leeds he has done. So there is that balancing act. But I also get the sense that I felt tactically he can be found quite wanting in the Premier League, and I don't get the impression. I think Connor said this loads of times. I don't get the impression he's adaptable enough for what the Premier League requires for a promoted side, especially away from home. I mean, look at it, right? On Sunday against Nottingham Forest, they took the lead, and it was a pretty well worked goal actually. It was really good pressing, good movement, and really good finish from Lucas Nemecha, but I'm just not convinced that. I mean, and even the Leeds fans have said it. They feel they've done well enough in defence and midfield recruitment wise, but it's just that attack that looks a bit lacking and wanting. And then they surrendered the lead within 2 minutes. They need to find a way to be a much sterner stuff away from home, particularly. So, and especially when you look at the fixtures they've got coming up. I mean, they've got even the games that aren't against the big six. You know, you've got Palace at home. Palace are not an easy game at all. But then you've got Sunderland away in that run, who've had a great season so far. And you've got Brentford away. You know, Brentford might be in the bottom 10, but I'll tell you right now, Brentford are no slouches. I've watched them a few times against when they played Liverpool. Deserved to beat them there. Deserved a point against Chelsea. They deservedly beat Man United at home. It's a very hard game, that. So I think with Farke, I can understand why the Leeds fans do want him gone, and I don't think he is good enough for the Premier League. But you know, you just wonder, even if they sacked him and brought someone else in, unless there is an exceptional manager bounce, then you worry for what the state could be for Leeds going into the January window.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Villa at home game just after the international break, and I sense Leeds need to get something and possibly the win.
I was going to say, possibly needs to win, don't they?
Because you look at, Liverpool and Man City in there, there's some really difficult games coming for Leeds. But look, they've got a chance. They are above the bottom three. The final team we'll touch on, maybe they've been sleepwalking towards the relegation battle. It's Fulham with 5 defeats in their last 6. They are on the same points as Leeds United. So I do think we need to talk about Fulham. Probably outsiders in this conversation, Michael. But if this terrible run continues, if they keep failing to score many goals, and if Marco Silva was to go at some point, you'd have to be worried for them.
You'd have to look at them, certainly, and I wouldn't have expected. I mean, I know Fulham weren't very active in the window, were they, until right at the very end of it? Yeah. So that obviously increased a bit of tensions a little bit, but I still think Fulham will have enough. But obviously, as you said, though, I think if you look at Marco Silva, there's been a lot of grumblings about how dissatisfied he was with the summer window, wasn't there? So, yeah, it's a weird one with Fulham. I hope they lose the next game because we play them. But taking us out of it, I don't see Fulham going down. But you can't rule it out if there's runs are what's the phrase? Form is temporary, class is permanent. And I do think Fulham have a better. I think if you compared Wolves to Leeds, Burnley, and Wolves. Sorry, compare Fulham to Leeds, Burnley, and Wolves. You'd struggle to argue any of them have a better side than Fulham. But You just wonder. Again, a lot of it could they end up being sleepwalking? That's the thing, you phrase you use. Like they're sort of drifting right down the bottom. I do think Fulham will win enough of the 6-pointers that they need to in order to do it. I mean, they've beaten Wolves already. If you want to include Brentford in this, I don't think Brentford will go down now, but they've beaten Brentford at home. They've beaten Wolves at home. They beat Leeds at home, okay, albeit in the last minute as well. So I think, if Fulham can get results against when they play Burnley, when they play Nottingham Forest as well, when they're playing all of these teams in 6-pointers, then I think they will be all right. And I do think Fulham will go down, but just need to arrest the form a little bit, hopefully after the next game. But arrest the form a little bit, then just keep themselves above water for now.
Yeah, very good. It does feel, when you look at all of these 6 teams' fixtures between now and Christmas, they've all got a very, very difficult run. And you sense that maybe they're all going to be under a point per game, which makes it very interesting. And that's probably as good as Leeds and Burnley can hope for at the minute, that the teams around them continue to struggle, so they stay within touching distance. But I don't know. Share your thoughts, guys, down in the comments, especially if you support one of these teams. It's a very fascinating relegation battle. Will it start to shift as the games start to come thick and fast during December and January? Will Forest pull away? Will Fulham pull away? Will Wolves be dead and buried before Christmas? I don't know. Share your thoughts. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me, Michael.
Thanks very much for having me. Been really, really good discussing this, and hopefully we're not involved in this on the business end of the season.
Be sure to check out Michael's channel, guys, down below. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace out.